Leave this almost out. There's also a couple of toilets. Again, they're neutral toilets. They're just at this door to my right, to your left, at the very top of the hall. Anybody needs any assistance, please let one of us know, and we'll help you as much as we can. Are we ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Today, the 22nd of July, 1706, the terms of a particular treaty that we hear about was agreed. And here we are, 317 years later, gathering here in Greyfriars Charterless Centre to launch Stirling Directive. Just now, the format that we're going to do today is we're going to have an opening statement from Sarah, and then we're going to go on to questions and answers. And then when we close today, we will then head down to Holyrood, where we're going to have our rally and you'll hear our formal statement. So, without further ado, we will carry on with the event here today, and I would like to introduce the people that have been involved with the Stirling Directive, a group of people that you could say were more invested in Scottish independence, and it's been a real privilege to actually be working with them over the past wee while to get us to here today and to launch the Stirling Directive. So, without further ado, the ladies first on the directive. There is Julie McAnulty. There's Marjorie Thompson. People might not know this person, but Ziggy Saliers. And myself, Colette Walker. And we've also got some gentlemen in the group, some are more gentle than others. So first of all, we've got David Hood. We've got Alex Thornburn. We have Kevin Bush. We've got John Brown. And we've got the very formidable Peter Bell. So just now, we are going to pass over to Sarah, and she's going to give an opening statement, and then we'll go to Q&As. Thank you. Sorry, is there any question to do?
Can you come up to the lecture?
Does that work? So I'd like to start by welcoming all the members of the press. I think about 200 of them got invites. Thank you so much for coming. So before I move on, I just thought I'd drop this in. I watched the meeting this morning.
Sarah.
Sorry, I was watching the meeting this morning at the Byline Times, which I'm sure what's you're familiar with. And there's kind of looking for funding at the moment. They're talking about the stories that they reported and nobody else did. I mean, they talked about, they asked that question, why is the Byline Times the only news outlet to report on the billions given to the pals and forests during, and in private contracts during COVID? Well, the answer to that question is There has been in recent years a merger between the political classes and the media. We know that in England, I think. So they like to think that if they don't perform on something that's a bit trivial and irrelevant, like, you know, millions of pounds, contracts for things that you never deliver. And maybe this isn't as trivial either as the political classes would like us to think. So, this is a joint statement on behalf of the Stirling Directive Committee. But what this is for and what it's about. I could not explain more clearly or precisely what the Stirling Directive is and is for than in the words of Peter Bell in his blog. He wrote, "Suppose the people of a nation were kept in ignorance of their constitutional rights and recourses. Suppose they were, by various means, both subtle and crude, uneducated and or deceived regarding the history, traditions, and culture of the nation they inhabit. What would become of those people? Who would wish to create such a situation? Who would benefit from the people of a nation being kept in ignorance of their entitlements, under a constitution whose very existence has been kept from them? In a very real sense, the true status of Scotland is foreign to the people of Scotland. The true standing of the people of Scotland is foreign to them. The real Scotland is, to a large part of the nation's people, a foreign place, a place they're unaware of, a place that they have been purposefully kept in ignorance of. What happens when they find out? So what happens when they find out? What happens when they find out that for 300 years, 370 years, Scotland has been annexed by England under the pretense that annexation was what the Treaty and Articles of Union enabled and intended all along? What happens when they find out that we have exactly the rights of a colony? A colony England will never permit to exercise the normal human right to self-determination, because England can afford Scottish independence. What happens when they find out that Scottish popular sovereignty means much, much more than the right to vote? That it takes precedence over any other authority, whether at Westminster or Holyrood? That it means that the Scottish people can act on their own authority because they are the ultimate authority. What happens when they find out that their politicians have been only paying lip service to Scottish popular sovereignty? Lip service because these representatives do not behave and have never behaved as though they are required to act in accordance with the express will of the people. What happens when they realise our politicians have stood by helplessly as the wealth of Scotland, which belongs to the whole nation in right of the Scottish Crown, has been looted and is being looted by a foreign power in right of a foreign, an English, not a UK, there's no such thing, not a UK Crown? And what happens when they find out that they're entitled to choose not just a different flavoured political party, but any government and any form of government, direct democracy, participatory democracy, representative democracy, suited to their needs? We do not know exactly what will happen, but we intend to find out. Because we intend to make every Scot aware of our real collective authority as a people. aware of the power to remove the many, many injustices, the many, many abuses of power, privilege, and wealth that presently condemn a quarter of our people to poverty, hunger, homelessness, or desperation. We intend to ensure that every elected Scottish representative understands the true authority of the Scottish people, an authority that remains at all times, never transferred at the ballot box, and always superior within Scotland to that of Westminster. We intend to ensure that our elected politicians understand that by the authority, the sovereignty that is inherently and lawfully ours, they are empowered to respect a higher power than Westminster. Today, Scotland wakes up, and the Stirling Directive campaign will take this message to the whole people of Scotland. The principle and law of the sovereignty of the people is the foundation of our nation and nationalism now as it always was. It is a foundation of love and community, not Anglo-British nationalism based on fear and kleptocracy. It means that though we are prisoners, we do not need to be. Though we have been impoverished, we do not need to be poor. Though we have had our lands and rights taken from us, we can take them back because we, the people of Scotland, are sovereign. Okay.
Sorry, just a word. People are saying they can't hear the speech, so if you can just hold it close to your mouth, the microphone.
I'm pretty loud anyway.
Awesome.
So, I'm probably the only person on the platform without a Scottish accent, but let me just say that I'm here to return your favor of the Scots who signed the Declaration of Independence. 247 years ago, I thought as Carl was speaking, probably some of them were children or grandchildren of people who were around at the time of the Treaty of Union, and they just got out as fast as they could. I'm sorry about what it's turned into, but some of us care, and we're back here to help you in your own liberation struggle. What I'm going to do is open the floor to questions, and the reason I've spread out all this paper, much to Peter's chagrin, is because I know that people on the panel have different areas of specialty that they've worked on, and my vision, as with this 66-year-old having had one cataract now, I'm going to be going like this, okay? So don't think that I need to go to the loo or anything. I'm just going to try to see who is going to answer which question. Should I ask whether there are any non-indie press present who would like to ask the first question? I had to laugh when you said that, Sarah, because having lived in London for a long time, we began referring to the Islington-based London media as the provisional wing of New Labour years ago. And I think it's something similar up here, New SNP or whatever you want to call it. Okay, can I throw open the floor to questions? Sir, can you say who you are and where you're from? And I think there's meant to be a roving mic for you. There it is, right there.
Suzanne.
And I'll pass mine down to whoever needs to answer from up here.
Thank you. My name is Peter Gill, I'm from Greece. The question I was to ask is, this is how are we going to get the people of Scotland to know about it, other than just through social media, when the British media are not interested?
Well, I can throw that open to Peter Bell and to Julie, but I'll start with Peter.
You mentioned social media, but that is massive. And it's kind of off, it gets a bad reputation, but it's a wonderful way of getting the message in. Somebody once did a calculation for one of my tweets, how many people wanted that sort of reach. And it was in the tens of thousands, and that brought it home to me how powerful that is. but there's also word of mouth. I would refer you back to 2012, because the Yes movement started. It's difficult to find where it started and grew, because it just burst onto the scene. Everybody knew about it right away. I think it will be much the same with this. Tomorrow, everybody will be talking about it. Hopefully the day after as well. Okay, does that answer the question?
Can I just ask everyone to speak loudly, please?
That's my habit. I always ask if that properly answer the question. With that, the Scottish Government ignoring it. I know that would be a bit strange. They've spent years banging on about a process that is legal and constitutional. Well, this is legal in Scotland. This is constitutional in Scotland. Well, there you are. It's legal and constitutional. So why would they turn it down? But if they do turn it down, then they're going to have to answer to the people of Scotland.
Yes, sadly, the Scottish Government, it was a good move to actually call it the Scottish Government at the time in 2014, but the Scottish Government are really just the colonial government of England and Scotland. And I think that is the real problem here. And while you say that social media has a reach, yes, it does to a point. I think the difficulty is that when people actually go to social media, those who kind of have an independence leaning will go to independence type blogs. Those that don't will continue to watch the BBC, read the Daily Mail, believe all the rubbish, and those are the people we need to reach. And that is the crucial bit. I was involved in marketing for a number of years, so I kind of have a bit of knowledge of this. And I have been in touch with Sarah, so I'd like to catch up with you if I can. Thank you.
Can I sorry?
Just want to give Julie a chance.
Yeah, sure. At that point, the Scottish Parliament, yes, it's an executive parliament in Westminster at the moment. But it doesn't have to be. Remember, we are sovereign, the people of Scotland. That parliament is whatever we say it is. So if we decide one day, because it has democratic legitimacy, more than any other parliament on these islands, it has democratic legitimacy because of the way it's elected. So if we choose to say, no, that is now our national parliament, who can gainsay us? We are the people and we are Scotland.
You might need to involve a mass application.
I think one of the key words today is going to be community. And that is basically how we're going to do it. All of us here are members of different communities. Okay? It might be a church, it might be a bowling club, it might be your work, it might be something like that. This is really how the word is going to be spread. Social media is good, but it has its limits. Cast your minds back to 2014 and the buzz that was going on then. Think of all the meetings that we were organising. When there is an idea, people will run with it, and people are hungry for this. Bear in mind that independence is running at 53%, the support for independence is running at 53%. We never had that figure before the referendum in 2014. We've got that now. All it needs for us to do is to pick up that baton and run with it. But every person in this room needs to think to themselves, what communities do I belong to? What communities can I speak to? You know, back in the 80s, yeah, and they can affiliate as well. You know, so if you're a member of your local political branch, whatever it might be, get them to affiliate with us. You know, if it's your works, get them to sign up with us. If it's local church, get them to sign up. You know, we all need to get on board. This needs to be a cohesive movement. It needs to be all the communities of Scotland together. This harks back to the 3 states and, you know, the conventions and other things. But what I was going to say to you was, you know, Thatcher back in the 80s did a lot to break down the communities. Her main aim in shutting down the steelworks and the coal pits and stuff wasn't simply to shut down those industries, but also to shut down political hubs and the means by which we communicate with each other. And we need to build up all those links again, and that is the work for all of us in this room ahead of us, but we can certainly do it. And we've had the example of 2014 before us, and we're starting from a much better point than we were then.
Gentleman there.
Paul Laidlaw from the Five Salvo Hub. First of all, thank you for putting the Stirling Directive together. I think you're hearing my voice is big enough for anyway. Thanks, David. Well, thank you very much for putting it together. It's another component instead. But my question, and the bigger question is, in terms of internationalising this argument, and we've talked about building a case to go to the International Court of Justice and the United Nations, what's your thoughts on the timescale for that and the process for that? Thank you.
Okay, so this is a parallel and separate initiative from that, and clearly, although as you'll see in the directive, if unthinkably our Scottish representatives did not look at this and go, oh, thank God, we don't have to be bowing and kowtowing to a rogue state that constantly changes what the law means as it suits. We've actually got a solid authority in the Scottish people. Here it is. Let's check that in law. Absolutely, we will be going ahead. Failing that, because we can't imagine them doing that, can we? Failing that, eventually we will end up in the European Court of Human Rights because we are talking about human rights. At the same time, as you know, Salvo is primarily, we're kind of getting, there's a lot of extra work on the side here, but Salvo's concern is that we are in a union, supposedly. We are part of something, a state that calls itself the United Kingdom. That state was formed by an agreement. That agreement is otherwise called a settlement. That agreement brought this supposed new state into being. That means it's constitutional. So we have a constitutional settlement, except that it's been waiting to come into place since 1707. Instead of the constitutional settlement, which is right there in black and white, it's just that people go, oh, that old stuff. Hey, by the way, that old stuff, that English crown from 1066 is what's busy taking out oil and gas and renewables right now. That's how relevant this ancient stuff actually is. So this is really important, that if there is such a thing as the United Kingdom at all, it was founded by this constitutional settlement, this fundamental agreement. But it's never been there. They've never observed the limits of that agreement, they've never observed the conditions of that agreement. And when you take a close look, what you see under the Union Jack is, oh gosh, there's the legs and knees of the English Magna Carta. Oh my, there's the middly bit of the, and that's the bit I associate with that nether region of the English Bill of Rights, not the Scottish Claim of Right. There's the top, the English crown. Start naked. There's nothing under there but England calling itself, rebranding itself as the United Kingdom. Now, there's a Cambridge professor, Mark Elliott, who wrote about the Internal Market Act, or bill as it was then, about what he called the UK exceptionism. That's English state, not English people, English state exceptionalism. It means that was fine, the European Treaty of Maastricht, the European Union treaties were all fine until they wanted out, and then they didn't have to bother with them anymore. Or the Northern Ireland Protocol, the Windsor Agreement, completely violates Article 6 of the Treaty of Union and international law. But as far as they're concerned, they can do whatever they want because, heck, their parliament is sovereign over the entire world. Once upon a time, over a quarter of the globe. And that's what law means to them. That's why Craig Murray talks about a rogue state, right? When their exceptionalism comes into contact with international law, as Mark Elliott said, it dissolves. It's like kryptonite for Superman, it just dissolves. So the second phase, the second leg of this is that we are we are going to have to get a good number of signatures. None of you know why we don't have those, and why we're going to have to go to paper signatures and backup signatures and so on. But we're going to do it. And I'm going to make okay. We're going to be in the UN. We're going to be there by this December. And when we find and have persuaded the right group committee to ask for to refer for an advisory ruling from the ICJ, that normally takes a few months. That's the point at which we've got the international community able to look and see the crimes. These are crimes that have been committed against the nation and people of Scotland. Once those are exposed, then we can tell our representatives, get started, take these back. You negotiate independence from the point of view of you owe us reparations, not can we keep a bit of our oil, or how much of the debt do we take on. Scotland has had a fraud committed against it, both politically and economically, and yeah, we're going to do something about that.
I'd like to bring John Brown, the former senior civil servant, in on that question.
Anticipating some questions.
Sorry, can you just watch the mic, otherwise people can hear?
I'm anticipating some of the questions that might be posed on the press and others. One of the issues is rulings and statutes that currently exist in the UK. The directive says that you're null and void. I like quite a strong statement. Null and void because the legislation since 1707 has been taking place in Westminster under parliamentary sovereignty. So, for example, the Constitution of the UK is woven into all the legislation that we have, and the Crown is supreme armies, whereas in Scotland it's the people. So, if you take some of the legislation as an example, it needs to be unpicked. If you look at the Parliamentary Parliament, it's constrained, it's in a straitjacket by this legislation called Scotland Act. That needs to be unpicked. So we need a new jacket to fit our politicians in sovereign independent state of Scotland. So I would like to dismantle that straitjacket. Some people would say, we'll throw it away, right? And we'll build a new jacket, new fabric for our politicians to operate within. And the threads and the stitches of that fabric will be determined and produced by sovereign people's not by parliamentarians, residents elected for 5 years. It sounds simple, but it's a major piece of work, and unless we do it, we will just repeat problems, the issues we currently have in the UK.
I don't know if David or Alex had anything to add on that. Another question, but just in case you had anything to say about international law going to the European Court of Human Rights.
Yeah, just a little addition is that bear in mind, this is a lovely principle we've got here. On one hand, we have a solid, rock solid case in principle. It's so elegant and lovely because it is in principle very simple. And we've exhausted all the channels that have been given to us. And I hate these words like given and asked and demonstrated and demanded, because at the end of the day, it's assert and declare. That's all it is, 2 words. So on one hand, we've got this lovely principle, which allows us to assert and declare. And going back to the authority of our representatives, inverted commas, surely they never have this as a supportive mechanism. It forms and disciplines and emboldens them. And I'd imagine it, if you've got a battlefield, and our people are on one side, our representatives, even our current politicians are on one side, and the opposition is over there. They've been asking the opposition to this battlefield play on.
Yes.
Which is abhorrent. If I was a strategist, as I am, but not in a military sense, I wouldn't be doing that. So now we're choosing the battlefield, and not only that, through Salvador, through the Scottish Constitution, reconstituted, refound, call it what you will, you've actually got the cannon in the field now, where everybody else had swords. So I think it's lovely pincer move, and on one hand we go to the domestic side, as I've just described. In terms of the international dimension, I've spoken, I'm not a legal person, and I've not been carrying out the legal brief on this, but I spoke to somebody who's very close to the UN and the Human Resources Centre, and they said, look, not Human Resources Centre, Human Rights Centre, so HR, business lady, and human rights, and they say categorically that we fulfill all the criteria of equality. And as my colleagues here, they've put, that once you've exhausted all your opportunities domestically, and the pressure of the media and everybody else put you through these expectations, you've exhausted all of this. You go to the UN, you go to the European Court of Human Rights, saying you've exhausted all these things, and you've proven those principles that exist in the form of the Constitution, and you've proven you have exhausted every damn thing you've possibly done. There is no other thing that we come to the conclusion of other than we've been wronged. So I think it is a difficult journey ahead in that regard, but because this principle is so damn simple, and because the criteria are already set, it's pretty straightforward. And I'd hate to see anybody trying to negate that by just legal kerfuffle, because at the end of the day, it's so strong, they've all done it.
Thanks, Dave.
Hi, my name is Susan Stewart, and I'm Stewart on Twitter. I'm from the Senate. And I want to ask you two guys a law question in respect of, okay, so we know we've been wronged, and we know that we have laws that are Scots law, not English law. So does that mean that we, the people, can start to challenge that law? Can we now protest, regardless of what Westminster says? Because the Constitution here says that you can protest. Protest. So, and when we are arrested by the police who are governed by Westminster, can we legitimately stand up and say, no, I'm in Scotland, I'm a Scot, and I can protest, or whatever it is we've chosen to do that day? Is that something that we can do? Can we start challenging now? Do we have to wait for somebody to say so?
Very quickly, one thing we know, great question, really simple answer, claim of right, still lawful, and we may have a hard time finding a court in this colony that would rule in favour of the constitutional situation in Scotland, despite the fact that it was ratified as a condition of this pretended union. But we know it's in force, and we know an individual can bring a case under the claim of right. So anyone getting arrested for things that are their civil rights in Scotland actually can go all the way to court session, claim of right. It's absolutely still in force.
Jack, did you want to add anything?
Switch on, yeah. One of the other questions that we kind of anticipated was to the one that asks what gives us the right to speak for the people of Scotland in this matter. And the answer to that is that we are the Scottish people. we're not only entitled, but we're obligated to uphold our rights and the rights of our fellow Scots. And rights are inherent or the other rights. You don't need to ask people if they want them. In fact, we've got a responsibility to defend them and to use them. But you might need to inform people what their rights really are, and that's part of the task of salvo and liberation. Especially when the rights could give them control of their own future and have been erased from the national consciousness precisely for that reason. So there's an educational process to be undertaken that we're well aware of, and everyone here is well aware of as well.
On to self-determination. Self-determination is woven through the fabric of the United Nations. It's in the Charter, it's in the Covenant of Civil and Political Rights.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's a lot of chat on the live feed that you can't hear you. So can you speak very, not just you, everyone, speak very clearly.
Sorry.
Okay, I'll start again. The right to self-determination is woven through the fabric of the United Nations. It's in the original Charter, the Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, the Covenant on Economic, Social, Cultural Rights, both Article 1 are identical in that, and there are several other documents of importance for the UN. Self-determination is a fundamental tenet of human rights. Without going back too far, it's 340 years, and can we even think of cataloguing the human rights abuses that have taken place in that time, and they're still taking place because we're being denied that right to self-determination, and that's where the courts come in. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, it's not. We're going to need advice on how to do it. I don't know if it's in the room, but the will is there to find out how to do it and take it forward. And that's what's really important. It's everybody here today is of a similar mind that the domestic route is closed, the international route is still open to us.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mo. I'm an online activist and I'm a lifelong campaigner for Scottish independence. I've got a lot of positivity and energy in the room today. All your words are amazing. My question to everybody and everybody here as well is, we have this amazing declaration, this directive, the Stirling Directive, which is going to inspire everybody here and across the hubs as well. And we have a small army of digital activists waiting out there to be inspired as well. What do you suggest that we do to take this message forward, to make sure that we deliver it to every single doorstep, and make sure people know this, because that is what we need as well. We need to be able to put this right on the doorstep of everybody, right in their faces as often as possible. So important.
There's some very obvious things. One of the great things about the Stirling Directive is that it stands on the authority of the people of Scotland, and that authority alone. Julia's talked a little bit about, we're not looking for individual signatories to the Stirling Directive, we're looking for communities to sign up. There's something absolutely, for me, something absolutely beautiful about that, because as Julie mentioned, going back before we were colonised, the way that Scotland worked, to quote Peter again, was it was a nation which was held together as a community by communities. And you have the English notion of, and it really is the English notion of the state and the individual. And Scotland really didn't have that in the same way. It had a conversation between the communities of the country, of the nation, and the communities that had been set up as part of the state, and there was a real crossover there. So you had the old convention of the boroughs, which eventually represented the shires as well. It didn't have legislative power. But think about that, when we think about citizens' assemblies, think how long Scotland had citizens' assemblies. And they came directly, they could draft legislation, they looked at legislation being proposed by the Parliament. All this information has come out so recently, how this worked. And it would go back to the boroughs, and then they'd come back, and the Parliament would amend and talk to the Convention of the Estates, which in modern language translates as the Assembly of the Communities. How beautiful is that? So when you start talking and thinking in terms of communities, and how are those, and also how those communities are affected by the colonisation of Scotland. Look at the proposal for free ports. What's that going to do to communities? Look at the fishing communities that were under threat from that exclusion zone. Look at the communities in the area of Loch Tay. Apparently that's going to be a pleasure ground, gated pleasure ground for the super rich. Absolutely, in Scotland, where the crown is on the people, which is why we have the law of trespass, and we held it in common, and you can have your bit fenced off so for use, but actually, it actually belongs to the people of the crown. No, we're going to have a pleasure area, thousands of acres, and we won't have any riffraff in there, will we? And what does that do to communities, and what do the rest of those eco-deserts do to communities? So we're really addressing, again, in a very, very Scottish way, the social communities. And so that's number one. There are communities in social media. That's number one. Think in terms of communities, and think in terms of not talking just one person to one person, but reaching out, speaking to your communities. Everybody can speak. There's none of us that can't get up at a wee meeting, at a bridge club or a bowling club, or on your social media, or in your church or your mosque, or wherever, or synagogue, wherever you might be, or your humanist meeting, you can talk about this. And the beautiful thing about it is, whether or not the Scots want to leave the Union, I sure do. There are a lot of unionists who could be very inspired by the notion that restoring the rightful and inherent sovereignty of the Scottish people could stop the destruction of our communities, our environment, the injustice, the corruption. Could make a much better country. The prices that you'd have to give, you'd have to say that the people have got the right to choose if they want to leave or not, they're likely to leave. So that's the only thing I would say about that.
I think the point you're making is a very, very valid one. Social media is really, really important in this. And I think what's really important about this all today is we are cutting across communities today. I can see lots of people here that I know from different parties, from all layers and layers. Some with no affiliation at all, except independence. But I think we hold on to what is common to us. We all want to get independence, and we have to be persistent with the message. That's the thing, to keep it going. We have plenty of material. We have plenty of people to run with this. We need to dig in. This can't be a flash in the pan today. This is the start of something. This has got to be a snowball. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger until the political classes cannot ignore it any longer. Look at the figures at the moment in the polls. I mentioned them earlier, right? Now, we know that support for independence parties is dropping at the moment in the polls, but support for independence is at 53%. The very simple interpretation of that is that the political classes, all of us, and including myself, we are on notice. Okay? We need to stop talking about getting seats, getting to Parliament, all of that, and we need to talk about how do we get Indy done? That's what we need to do, and we need to start doing that.
There was, I think, a question about what can digital online activists actually do. I would say, first of all, that if they're already digital online activists, they'll know what to do. But if any of you aspire to be online activists, the three words, hashtags, links, and shares. Hashtags are important. They help people to find stuff. They help people to find relevant stuff. Links direct people to relevant material, as do shares. You find an article about the Stirling Directive, you share it with everybody that you can. And don't just do it once. Don't just put a hashtag on once. Do it every single time you post. The social media gets a bad reputation. Why does it get a bad reputation? It doesn't get a bad reputation just by chance. It's been given that bad reputation. And the reason it's been given that bad reputation is because governments can't control it. They're trying desperately to control it. But every time they make the move to control things, people a lot cleverer than I am find a way around it. And so we have to make use of that. We have to make use of that because we can get the penetration. Hashtags, links, and shares. Get enough hashtags, and it's on the news the next morning. Because that's how the newspapers find material now. They don't send people out looking for stories. They report on the things that are trending on Twitter. So let's trend.
This seems to be on Peter there, hashtags, links and shares. I would also add frames, because I've got a board you to tears, I was going to say another things. If anybody wants to talk about the project I've been undertaking recently about framing, and one of the poor things we've been doing in the movement has been sharing others, i.e. unionist frames, and they've been wrong. And what we're trying to do here has got to embolden and make us more capable of framing things in the right way. So every time we're going to share something, especially if it's from somewhere else that we're kind of, it's not particularly I'm not saying a reputable source, but it's not being created with a purpose to share our information and our ambitions and objectives, then breathe, just stop, think, because we just share stuff which is quite frankly ridiculous. And all we've done is strengthen the meme in the first place. And people like your good self are custodians of these messages rather than sharers or journalists, because we see a lot of journalism these days, and it's being the red tops and the being expressed that out there. But we've got to breathe and look at that frame and say, is that true in terms of our Scottish Constitution, in terms of our basic fundamental right, whether we can go out and use our rights in a certain way, whether it's going to a demonstration or whatever. We've got to look at that and reframe and see if it actually fits. Because the other thing I found out that people don't vote policies, they vote values and vision. And they want to hear that positivity. So everything we do, when we're sharing it, look at it, breathe, but also if we're adding to it, because you don't normally just share it when you put a comment. Think about it through the prism of the people of Scotland being sought at every single time. Because if you do that, you can put that message out every single time, but you also make sure you're not regurgitating something that is a frame from the unionist camp. It's just as simple as that. Just breathe, reframe.
There will also be a Stirling Directive component on the Salvo website where people can exchange and share ideas, because not being someone very theoretical or legally minded, when you were talking, I was thinking yeah, we need stuff that young people can do. So like the proclamation that was adjusted, like the Sinn Féin one, you know, for 316 years, we've lost this, we've lost this, we've lost this. In their case, it was what, 185. That's a good thing to share, get young people involved. It looks like a kind of crusty old parchment. Anybody have any relatives, friends, grandchildren who might be in the music industry? It's really good to get that kind of stuff going. And also, you can actually email or tweet directly to various journals. Believe it or not, I've been harassing the letters editors of the Herald and the Scotsman to the extent that one of them said, "We'll have a good time on Saturday." So I was complaining that he'd truncated some of the letters we'd sent in. Anyway, there are all sorts of ways to do that, and I think Peter wants to say one more thing, but I'm aware that maybe there are other people in the gathering who would like to say something first. So you do that, and I'll come straight to you, Peter. Are we responsible?
You just actually touched on what I was going to ask, but I really support Salva's liberation movement. I think it's a wonderful thing, and hopefully it will be very successful. But the one thing I noticed in this room today, if I dare say, is a lack of people, possibly under the age of 25, 30. And I think 9 years ago, when we did the Yes movement, there were a lot of young people who were in their mid-teens, who will now be in their 20s. Now, maybe they disappeared from Scotland to go further afield, but I'm not going to be here, you know what I mean, to take this forward as a young person would. And I think it's really important. The majority of people here possibly will have children, grandchildren, who don't appear interested. I said to my daughter, "Come along with me." "Oh, I've something else to do." She's 50. My granddaughter's away. But this is the group, the community, that should be really interested. I've only met one group of young people, and that was the Yes movement from the university here. And I don't know if Salvo will have a group of young people, and other communities do, but they're the ones who are going to take this forward.
Yes.
I have to say it's a very good point about I know young people here. I'm far from the youngest in this room. We have to engage them. Although I would say this, young people tend to get involved in something when there's something to get involved in. And up until now, well, for the past 9 years, there's been nothing for them to get involved in. You actually have to give them something to engage with. You have to say, right, we are aiming for this. We have to get behind this. I think then a lot of people will come. And there's a lot of other things, ideas for engagement with young people through music, for example, and also social media. I have to say, this is the wrong place to be asking that question, because this hall's full of old folk. It's actually the young people themselves that we should be asking what it is that they want and what they want to do. We should, if you can find it that will listen to you for 5 minutes, try asking them what would get them engaged.
As a professional marketer, about segmentation involving different communities, involving young people, this is particularly good for young people, funnily enough. It's not dry, as we would think, legal stuff and all the rest of it, because young people are driven by, again, visions and values. The now younger generation, the youngest generation, whatever you want to call it, They're driven more than any of us by values now, and they're very aware of their values. So this will shine with them. But what we have to do is translate this into, do you realise what's happening with Westminster? You can't now even go out and demonstrate. That's your that's your values, that's your thing being taken away from you. And they understand it better than we do. That's why they're championing the clean tech, the global warming agenda. They're actually addressing it. So they understand morals, principles, and values more than we think they do. It's like every time I'm a father, I thought my daughters didn't understand these things, but they understand it better than I do. You know? So I think, as Pierre said, that they will, light the fire that translate the Constitution into something like the British. Like I said, they have been, they're not allowed to go around Europe because of frigging Brexit. Sorry, I was swearing about Brexit. That's a value to them, value and values to them, which has been broken, and it's in complete contradiction of the Scots constitutional law. They should not be allowed to do that for us. So as long as we translate this into things and values for the young generation, they will grasp it and they will embrace it.
2 or 3 more questions, and then I'll ask Colette, I think, to sum up and thank everybody. Go ahead.
In fact, I'm just stand on turn round so they can hear me this evening. You've probably heard that movie that brought that phrase down, and it said, if we build it, they will come. Well, these people before us have just been building, shall we say, spaceship Salvo. Today it landed, and we are the people that are going to disembark from that particular spaceship Salvo, and we're going to go to our communities. And we're going to send out a message. And then I know that everybody will have been in a situation where you're sitting having a meal on a Sunday night with your family, and then they'll say, you can't have your independence because of some legislation. It might be, it might be that piece of legislation that set up the Parliament or Scottish Parliament, things like that. But the thing is that you might not have the confidence to actually say, I know that that's not true, and I know that that's not right, and I know that that can hold me down. I don't know why. Well, these people didn't always know why. I didn't always know why. Some people in this room probably still don't know why. But the thing is, you can just say to that person, prove that that piece of legislation has credence and a foothold in Scotland. Prove that to me, and leave it. And then you can turn around to people like me, or people like those people in the panel. You can go to the Scotland website and find out why. And get back to them. So that's it. They've done it. It's now here. We need to just go out and say to people, no, that's actually not right in Scotland, and you need to prove to me why you think it is right in Scotland, whatever that piece of legislation is. And then you go back, you find out why it doesn't apply in Scotland, and then tell them why it doesn't at a later date.
Any last questions from the floor?
My name's Alison, and I'm just an ordinary person who somehow ended up in this building again, okay? We've been talking about this for, 9 years now? We've been lied to, deceived, betrayed, induced, blackmailed, exploited by people, okay? And this idea that young people are interested, the problem is, okay, that they don't teach young people the right questions to ask. They don't have teachers in place who question exactly what an answer is. Every single morning you wake up in life, okay, I'm 54 years old, and at 44, I thought I would die, Okay, and I thought I had been spared to come home and live in my country, so I would go to my makeup with a full soul. It's not finished yet, and it's, see this idea of lacking in courage. I have never met a Scottish people who lacked courage. What they did was they lacked voice, okay? So you go, and I'm a member of the public, I'm a member of the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, and I'm a member of a whole load of things, because no one offers you everything. If you did, you would take control of it, the hell you want that. So, the idea of young people, it's also 50-year-olds we need to know, 50-year-olds who bought the Nicola Sturgeon, I'm trying to behave myself here. They bought that narrative, okay? They trusted her, and she's betrayed us, and then I'm herself, okay? And she won't do it anymore, and no one will kickstart anyone who refuses to be broken. That's what I am. Thank you.
Both the last two speakers, very inspiring and spot on. But what they were touching on, was the thing that David mentioned, reframing. We've come at it all wrong from the outset. The shape, the form, the nature of a campaign, a referendum campaign, just to give you an example, is it's determined by the question. And we, from the outset, we've been coming at this thing, we've had this approach where we're asking, should Scotland be an independent country? Now that immediately puts the onus on us to prove that Scotland should. But that's not the question. And I think the lady said that it's not better answers that we need, it's better questions. And the best question of them all, is, should Scotland remain in the Union?
No.
I hate to disagree, and I'm only disagreeing with Peter very, very slightly. I think the question is, should Scotland stay a nation annexed and funded by England?
Okay, thank you everybody. If you just give the panel a round of applause, please. We've been working on this for a bit of time now, and as you can gather, it has been a lot of work and a lot of thought process. But I think we'll agree it's well worth it, because we get getting told that we don't have a legal route to independence. Well, I want to have one now. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that independence is not about one person, it's not about one party, it's non-partisan, it's about every single one of us. We are sovereign, as we said earlier on. We make sure that everything that we put out on social media, every time we speak to somebody, we make sure that they understand the true meaning of our Scottish sovereignty. I don't know about you, but I'm completely inspired by the atmosphere that's in here today. I'm really looking forward to the rally down at Holyrood. I think it's going to be phenomenal. There's two people that I didn't introduce you to at the start, because they're sadly not here today. I want to give them a bit of recognition for them being part of the Stirling Directive, but unfortunately, due to circumstances, they could attend the event. So first of all, we've got Bill Cushan. And we're all from IndyCar, Gordon Ross. So Stirling Directive, again, hashtag Stirling Directive, make sure we start to trend it. And one thing I'd say as a visually impaired person, I always tell this as Salvo rule, every single first letter of a different word has to be a capital. So capital S for Stirling and capital D for Directive. Otherwise, the screen reader for visually impaired blind people will not be able to read it. And that again is a very big community. We're looking out is the disabled community who sometimes feel completely disengaged with politics because they're not being listened to. So please, capital letters and start each word in hashtags. So once again, I'd like to thank you for coming along here today to the launch of the Stirling Directive, and I'm going to close the event, and we will see you all down at Hollywood for 3 o'clock.
Yes. Does everybody want to sing a song before they leave? We all sing Flower of Scotland, or anyone got any suggestions? Huh?
And anybody wants to sing a song before we go, please just stay. Anybody from the Salvo Hubs have got any paperwork to pick up, you can get it in the front areas before you leave.
Can I get a quick switch on this one, David? Gentlemen, thank you. There's the man himself. Thanks, David. Thank you. Sorry, John. I'm getting no faces. Nice to see you. I don't know if you are them, but I know who you are.
Yeah, now you know, well,